I got divorced from my high school sweetheart. We were together for almost 10 years. I thought losing him would be the worst thing that could happen between us, but it turns out I was very wrong. Like, just losing him would have been a dream compared to all of this. So it's early September 2011. We haven't even been married a month yet. My husband and I have just started our college semester, and I am waiting for him to come home from his last class. Several hours go by, the sun starts to set. He never comes home. I walk to the campus and find him sitting outside on a bench. I sit down, I ask him if he's okay. I ask him why he didn't come home. Silence. No response. This feeling just comes over me, and I know that something is seriously wrong. He finally looks up just a little bit and says, "I feel like I have just made the biggest mistake of my life." I'm confused, so I ask, "What happened? What did you do?" Then he looks me dead in the eye and says, no flinching, "I mean, marrying you. I don't love you." I am stunned and hurt, of course. We'd been together since I was 15 years old, and he had told me that he loved me every single day since I was 16 years old. And now he suddenly just doesn't? It wasn't just hard to hear. It was straight up suspicious. We start failing at everything we are doing in life, and we realize that we're gonna need a really big shift if we're gonna save this. So we move across the state, we get settled, and for a while things seem a little bit better. We're working on it, you know? But pretty soon after that, I start to notice him exhibiting some very strange and even troubling behaviors. I knew that things were really rough. I know that stress can really mess with people. So at first, I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt. Until one night, we're laying in bed, he casually rolls over to be the big spoon, and he whispers something in his sleep right into my ear. So he rolls over to be the big spoon, and in my ear, he makes this dark, lizardy slurping noise. It took me very off guard. It was creepy. Then his voice takes on this clear high tone as if he's mimicking someone small. And he says, "No, please, stop." Then in a different voice, like a grown lizardy adult, he says, "No, I can't." Like, "No, please stop." "No, I can't." Like, I have never wanted to fly out of a bed faster in my life. And I start to try, but when he feels me, his right arm wraps around my waist, and his left arm, I'd been using it as a pillow, wraps up and around my neck. The next morning, we're sitting at our table, and I tell him sort of jokingly that he was making lizard noises in his sleep. He looks at me, surprised and thankfully a little bit disturbed. Then I ask, "Do you remember what you were dreaming about last night?" He says, "No." So I tell him exactly what he said. And he makes this face like the wind has just been knocked out of him and just stares at the table. Right then, our dog runs in barking, snaps my husband out of his trance, and he says, oh, he probably has to go to the bathroom. He grabs the dog's leash and they head out the door. Suddenly, I hear my dog yelp and what sounds like his nails scraping and sliding across the pavement. I end up confronting my husband immediately. I take my dog away from him, and he confesses to dragging my dog by the leash with the intent to hurt him, that this was not an isolated incident, and that he has done this before when I am not around. He said he was so sorry, but now that I knew when he'd been caught, it was better to just come clean. Because he didn't trust himself not to do this again and thought it would just be better if I took the dog out myself from now on. And I made it clear that this was never to happen again, and if it did, he would heavily regret it. He ended up going to an emotional release therapist after this to work on whatever it was that was causing these aggressive feelings towards my dog, which is the only reason I stayed. He never hurt my dog again, thank goodness, but things didn't exactly get better from there either. As I start going through these mental cycles trying to figure out what is going on, my mind kept going back to the same three events. Him saying he didn't love me, the dog situation, and him talking in his sleep, which continued to happen, by the way. After a while, I finally said that enough was enough. I know he doesn't actually feel sorry for any of it. I take him all the way back to the moment he told me he didn't love me. We go over that. He's in trouble, sort of, but he's heard it all before, so he's just brushing it off. He doesn't even care. And then I tell him I know that he is lying about his dreams. As expected, his body tenses up, he clenches his jaw, both of his hands ball into fists. I can see him there just clenching and beginning to disassociate and float away. His eyes start to go blank just like before. And I tell him that I know none of his behaviors up to this point have been normal. I tell him he knows his behaviors haven't been normal, and if he tries to lie to me again, he will never see me again. He sees that I actually do finally have this figured out. He sees that this is real, and so he agrees to tell the truth. I repeat the first part of that good old two-part question I asked him on the college campus on the bench that day. What happened? I'm just bracing myself for what this man is about to say. He puts his hand over his eyes and just starts to bawl. He now starts saying that he had been the subject of some pretty bad abuse that he had never confided in his parents about. He had never told anyone. He said it happened when he was a child. He says that he has been having nightmares about it. I'm thinking that this is kind of what I suspected, and it's horrible, and I want to know who did it. And he says he doesn't know. I say, oh, well, how many times did it happen? He says he doesn't know. I ask how old he was. Again, he says he doesn't know. I then ask him if he was even sure that this happened. He stops crying instantly. He turns to me, and then without any anger, no shakiness, no discomfort, nothing, says, I'm not sure if it was real or imagined, but it would make a lot of sense for the nightmares. Man, I never really thought I was abused. I'm so glad you helped me figure that out. You guys, I am now the definition of floored. Like, who says things like that? I'm not saying he wasn't abused, by the way. I think based on the situation and what I know about him, it is not only possible, but highly likely. And that he has since blocked those memories out, because that does happen. But he was taking this idea as like a convenient new part of his life story that I had kindly delivered up to him for his shiny new narrative that he would now get to use.
I'm actually really intrigued into what this man actually unknowingly whispered into this woman's ear during his sleep. It obviously sounds quite mischievous, mysterious, chilling, cold, scary, and obviously that when she's even saying that he wished he'd just cheated on her instead is a very bold point to make, and I guess it just shows the kind of scale that we're talking about into whatever this man is allegedly, possibly might have done. But the fact that there was high school sweethearts and they've been together for extensive period of time, and then just one day he just turns around and tells her that he doesn't love her. Obviously, that's going to be a huge shock. It's going to come as a shock, of course it is, to this woman, and after loving each other for all that period of time, to then just being told that no, that's not there anymore. It's going to be a big blow, a big hit, and you just wouldn't know how to react or feel, would you? So obviously there's a lot more to this than meets the eye, so I'm very intrigued into what's going to happen now. This is actually really interesting. I must admit, I'm very engaged into what's actually happening with this man, because obviously, she's going through all this medical stuff that's made her, very ill. And then when she actually confronts her husband about it and tells him what he actually said in his sleep, that's when his mood literally changes like that. He literally goes from being okay to literally like he's seeing a ghost. And obviously if you tell someone what he's dreaming about that night, that's not a kind of normal reaction to have. You kind of just like laugh it off. But the fact obviously he had that reaction, there's obviously a deeper meaning to it, and I'm very keen into finding out what's actually gone on here, because if my partner had that reaction to when I told him about a dream, I would be very concerned. I would be concerned, and I'm sure this woman at the time was as well, because you'd be freaking out if you like. And the fact that he's literally, but it sounds like he's dragging the dog across the pavement when he said he was going to take it for a walk. It's either he's got a violent streak in him, or he's got somewhere he needs to be. I'm not sure.